Miniwedge connector family was created to satisfy the application requirements of service entrance, streetlight, and aerial grounding connections. Consideration was given to ease of application, simple tooling, and long-term reliability. AMP's in-depth expertise in wedge pressure design and the customer's confidence in this connection technology were major considerations in the connector's development. To enhance the mechanical and electrical performance of the connector, where residential power loads are continually increasing, AMP has modified the contact surface of the Miniwedge C component. The geotack surface, described in more detail later in this video, has moved power contact theory to a new level. The combination of the geotack surface and factory-applied inhibitor prolongs the life of the connection in our changing environment. This video is divided into two sections. Section 1 will describe the connector construction and characteristics, while Section 2 will outline the application procedure. The Miniwedge connector consists of a formed C and a cast wedge component designed to fit specific conductor types and combinations. This family of connectors is divided into three groups. Number 1 for service entrance applications. Number 2 for streetlight connections. And number 3 for aerial grounding connections. The color-coded packaging of service entrance and streetlight connectors simplifies connector selection for terminating standard stranded and compacted or smooth body ACSR, AAAC, AAC, and copper conductors. A Miniwedge connector selection chart, number 124405, is available for use by the trade and stockroom personnel. This chart divides the connectors into ranges of conductors grouped according to service load levels. The lower range, referred to as the core range, terminates standard and smooth body conductors from number 6 to 1/0, while the upper range, designated as the 200 amp service connector, accommodates conductors from number 2 through 4/0, also in standard and smooth body. AMP's unique geotack surface is strategically applied to the inside surface of the C component. These carefully calculated geometric formations effectively increase the contact area between the conductor and the applied connector by biting into the conductor surface and producing bright, clean contact points. These contact points are surrounded by the factory-applied inhibitor and are protected from environmental contaminants that could result in corrosion. The geotack surface improves the tensile performance of the connector, creating a connection that can easily withstand the vibrations experienced in service entrance applications. The conductor, however, remains undamaged, and if it is necessary to disconnect and reconnect the service, there is no loss of conductor length. For streetlight connections, the chart is divided again into two groups. The small streetlight Miniwedge taps, covering wire combinations from number 14 through 1/0, and the large asymmetrical Miniwedge taps, used to connect wires from number 14 through number 4 to 2/0 through 336.4. An insulating cover, part number 83364-1, is available to isolate the connections from each other and ground. These covers are for touch insulation only and allow for drainage and the free flow of air around the connector. The only tool required is a set of parallel jaw pliers. Select the connector from the selection chart according to the conductor size and type. The label on the package can be cross-referenced to the color chart to verify the connector selection. Strip the conductor insulation approximately 2.5 inches and clean the conductor ends using your company's approved cleaning procedures and materials. Remove the connector from the package and place the tap wire or subscriber wire in one groove of the C. Place the other groove of the C over the through or hot wire and hold in position with one hand. Place the wedge into position between the two conductors and push in place with the locking boss facing you. The wedge can be tapped with the pliers to snug it in position. Tapping the wedge firmly between the conductors will reduce the pressure required for final termination. Check to ensure the conductors are in proper position in the C and wedge grooves. The connection is now self-supporting, and both hands are free to set the pliers ready for connector assembly. If a copper to aluminum connection is to be made, it is imperative that the aluminum conductor is always placed above the copper conductor. Adjust the pliers to the proper opening position. When the plier handles are in the closed position, the opening of the plier jaws should be slightly less than the length of the C member. Position the pliers across the back of the connector, with the tab on the narrow end of the C placed 2/3 of the way back on the teeth of the plier's lower jaw. The upper jaw of the pliers is placed on the wide end of the wedge, and the frame of the plier jaws parallel to the back of the C. Squeeze the pliers, driving the wedge into the C until the locking boss on the wedge snaps into the inspection window. If the locking boss is not visible in the inspection window, reposition the pliers and squeeze until the wedge is in the proper position. The insulating cover can now be snapped together, completing the mini-wedge connection. The same procedure is used to make taps, parallel splice connections, and pigtail or butt splices. The connector is easily removed by cutting with side cutters through the thin web which encloses the inspection window. Bend the material out away from the locking tab. Anchor the lower jaw of the pliers in the slot and nudge the wedge free with the other jaw placed on the narrow end of the wedge. The removed connector is not reusable. The conductor, however, is undamaged, and reconnection can be made without loss of conductor length. This concludes Section 2 of this training video. AMP Mini-Wedge catalog sheets and selection charts are available from your local AMP sales representative or from your nearest AMP office.